Hello, friends. This is your humble narrator and host, Tony Figueroa. And today, before I get on to talking about what I'm up to, I want to spend some time sharing this terrific little comic with you. This is actually a preview of an upcoming comic called Turbo Pit Fighter. And it's by the team of Jake Jacobs on pencils and story, and Kurt Brugel on inks, and also collaborating on the story. This came to me in the mail recently. It was part of a trade. I traded the first and second issue of Wrestler Zero, and they were nice enough to send me this. I have to admit, I really love this comic. First off, let's start off with this cover. It's definitely a grabber, as Kirby would used to call covers. I love the hand-lettered logo. It fits the theme of the comic perfectly. It's a very powerful, arresting image, and it reminds me of a lot of the self-published and small press comics that were coming out of New York and such, called stuff like Star Warriors and New York City Outlaws by Ken Landgraf. The artwork itself has the feel of Don Simpson and Rick Veitch, and those are, well, all three of those guys, Landgraf, Veitch, and Simpson, just fantastic artists and letterers and inkers. And to be compared to those guys is certainly a comparison I would not mind at all. But that's what it reminds me of. I grew up in a time where comic book art just had a very distinctive look to it. There wasn't really much of an emphasis on quote-unquote naturalism or realism, especially in the mainstream. And I guess that imprinted itself on me because that is the type of work I tend to gravitate to instinctively, although I do admire artists who work in the more natural vein, like, Dan Clowes and the Hernandez brothers and so forth. That certainly has its place because the comic book medium is large enough to accommodate any topic, any genre, and any stylistic approach, from the most abstract and sketchy to the most tightly rendered, photorealistic, if you want to call it that, type of art. But what we're looking at here is a fantastic premise, and the style just suits it perfectly. So let's take a peek inside. And this is page 1 of their preview. And just look at the hand lettering, the hand lettered sound effects. The third panel with that door being kicked in, just a fantastic low angle with great shading. The storytelling is really good. It leads your eye exactly where you need to go. Comic book art is not designed so much to call attention to itself as it is to convey a story. And in this case, the art, I love this art, and I think it also serves the story beautifully, so you can't go wrong with this. Really good high angle establishing shot. And then moving on to the next page, you can see here how the storytelling is such that the eye flows in a way that we read from left to right. Just great stuff. A variety of angles. You really feel the impact of those blows. Just really well done. And then here we continue with this battle. The premise of this comic is it does take place in a dystopian type of future. And this extremely strong and brave woman is fighting for her life, literally, in this sort of brutal arena as part of a sort of bread and circuses type of thing that the ruling or the rulers of this dystopian society have concocted. And, pretty strong stuff. A little bit like Spartacus. Again, here we see the aftermath of the battle, a little bit of exposition. And then we go right into some more action, and just look at that big panel right there. Look at the first off, the contrapositional aspect of the figure on the left, and just a sense of weight and mass that they both have. Just absolutely beautifully done. The penciling, the inking, the textures are just great. It has that rough, gritty feel that this type of story requires. It's sort of a dirty, fallen world, and I think the artwork reflects the rough nature of the environment that these folks are living in. So kudos to Jake and Kurt. And then this final panel of her walking away, again, it's a good leading device. And then here we come to the back cover, and I am looking forward to the publication of this comic. I want to buy 2 copies. Just great stuff. Give this your support. Visit their channel on YouTube, which is also called Turbo Pit Fighter, and I'm going to include some links in the description of this video so you can check out their great interviews that they do with other creators, their process videos, conversations between Jake and Kurt. It's just great, great stuff. I can't recommend it highly enough, and I want to thank both of these guys for being cool enough to share this work in progress with me. So thumbs up, and I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so as far as what I've been up to recently, I did this piece, I featured it in one of my earlier videos. It was originally intended to be a Wrestler Zero piece, and at the last second I changed it to this sort of nondescript warrior type. But I went ahead and did it. I do my layouts on 11 by 17 copy paper because it's the same size as the art board that I use for the finished product. And this is the stage where all of the thinking and planning is done. At this point, I want the composition to be right. I want all the elements that need to be there in place. I don't usually tend to pencil this tightly. I like to leave some room for spontaneity and creativity in the inking stage, but nevertheless, here I kind of went in a little heavy. So there is that. And one of the things I also tried to do here is to break my habit of drawing very vertically, which is very straight up and down, and to keep the main elements of this drawing out of the dead center of the picture. So hopefully I succeeded. So this is the first fully inked and colored version, all hand inked, all hand colored. The white lines are done with a gel pen, believe it or not. And one technique that I did use from the one and only Jack Kirby is to indicate a light source at the point of impact. That was something that I believe he pioneered, and I'm definitely going to use it. So there is that. But as I said before, it was intended to be a Wrestler Zero piece, so I decided to retrace it, recreate it, make some subtle changes to it, but basically keep the same idea. And then we went from the pencils here on 11 by 17 copy paper, and this is the finished result. Wrestler Zero versus the Synthetic Men, I call it. I can use this as a story page, I can use it as a pinup, or perhaps even both. But nevertheless, I'm glad I did it. And there it is in all its glory. Wrestler Zero versus the Synthetic Men. So moving along, I've got another thing in the hopper because I have ideas for other things as well. And this one is from a concept I have, which I've named the Iron Path. Don't have it fully fleshed out yet, but I've always been an admirer of the aesthetic of ancient Rome and Greek, those uniforms. And I just wanted to do a piece that kind of reflected that. And I had shown this before also, and the movie Troy with Brad Pitt and Eric Bana certainly is a big influence on this piece as well. And I just let it sort of sit in my portfolio case for quite a while, and I decided to throw it on the light box, trace it off, and I'm going to do another video with this piece showing a little bit of my inking process as well. But there's still some work to be done here, especially for the backgrounds, because backgrounds are really important for the story you're trying to convey, because even if you're just doing a single illustration, I feel at least that it should convey a sense of story, or should have something that alludes to a narrative, and that's it. So I will be continuing to work on this. I've got some other things in the hopper as well. I don't want to be premature with my announcements, but I do intend to publish this year, whether that turns out to be an art book that has illustrations and a short comic story, or I may just publish another comic, or perhaps even both. But at this point, I'm going to leave it here for now. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time and your attention, and I will see you on the next video. Bye now.